Everybody, and welcome to the March 25th, 2019 Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we all get started, if we could all rise for our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Almighty God, we come before you. We acknowledge your sovereignty over all things, and we acknowledge your presence in this room. Lord, as we ponder and consider the task of governing within our community, we ask you to guide our thoughts and hearts. Lord, we also thank you for the many blessings. Lord, we ask you to grant each of us wisdom and discernment. And for each of those that pray with us tonight, we each pray to you in the manner we were taught. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Certainly appreciate you taking the time. For everybody out in Georgetown that's watching on TV, we welcome you as well. So as always, we'd make sure we get everybody up who's actually joining us. So Gloria, why don't you come up first and tell us why you're here. If you could introduce yourself formally, that would be great.
I'm Gloria Swanbon, and tonight I'm representing the Friends of the Georgetown Peabody Library. So we are requesting a license to serve wine at one of our major fundraising events called Books in Bloom. And for those of you that aren't familiar with it, we do this every other year. This is our third time that we'll be putting this program on. And basically, people in the community donate floral arrangements that depict the theme of a book that they choose. At the last event 2 years ago, we had 37 arrangements on display. They're donated, and then we raffle them off. We charge admission, and we serve refreshments. So we like to serve wine with hors d'oeuvres, and then we also serve coffee and punch with pastry. We have live music, and it's quite a gala event, and it's our major fundraiser. So this is our program book from the last time we did it. We're working on the new one now. So I believe you have all the information you need for the application to apply for a one-day license for us.
Okay. Questions from the board?
Questions?
I would do it. I'm sorry, go ahead. Who's that?
No.
I was just going to say thank you. I mean, I don't think the books part has been described like that, like you've done. So thank you for that description there. If I did one, it'd have to have thorns in it, I think, so.
Go ahead.
So is 12 bottles of wine going to be enough?
12?
Well, that's what's said in here. There's
Yes.
Yeah.
12 bottles donated.
That's what we had last time, and actually we didn't use it. We had one or two left. So it should be, they're the large bottles. And we have our own glasses. The library has our own wine glasses that are engraved. And there's the smaller ones. And we don't fill them because people are walking around and I don't want it spilled, but they can have, another one if they want. They can have all they want.
So how many people do you average? I know I went to one year.
I'd love to run out because that means there'd be a lot of people there.
All right. So how many people would you manage?
About 70, 75.
70, 75? It's all adults, no kids?
Yeah, it doesn't attract the younger crowd.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think it's a worthy thing, and it helps the library for sure.
Thank you.
That's all. I looked at the packet. It seemed to be everything was in order. But
Janet, we have everything?
we rely on
Yes.
Janet to make sure we read
We
it
hope
right.
you come.
As long as Janet says everything's okay, we're okay. Janet makes this whole thing run,
Run.
Well, Janet, we don't run, So, all right, anybody else on the board have any questions? No. Okay, if I could get a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the Friends of the Georgetown Peabody Library, Inc. request for a charity wine license from the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission for the Books in Bloom fundraiser on Saturday, May 4th, 2019, from 6:30 p.m. to 9:00 p.m. at the Georgetown Peabody Library, 2 Maple Street.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Have a wonderful event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Have fun. All right, gentlemen, let's come on up.
not sure. I sent the letter kind of late, so I'm not sure if you guys have a copy with you. I brought copies. If
No, we got it. We got it. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you.
If everyone can introduce yourselves, please.
Pete Dyer, Light Commissioner.
Tom Tillis, I'm the Vice President of AECOM, a very large engineering and consulting and engineering and planning firm.
Okay.
Nick Lawler, Light Commissioner and Water Commissioner.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining tonight. You know, I was talking to Nick, and as promised, you know, Nick was at a meeting and, you know, promised us that he would actually have a report for us before town meeting in terms of, you know, an opinion, I guess, of this study to merge both light and water. So, you know, with that being said, you know, Nick kept his word, and I thank him for that because it was important to a lot of members on this board. And, you know, it did come out kind of late, so we're going to give everybody, you know, a chance to maybe go through it as maybe I'll give you the floor a little bit. But Tom, if it's okay, you can run us through the report, you know, kind of let us know what your thoughts are, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Sure. Listen, just a little bit of background. So I've been in the business for 35 years, mostly in the public sector, management, operations, design, engineering, planning, permitting, water, power, transportation projects, primarily here in the New England area, and really in particular in Massachusetts. And I've served on a whole bunch of different boards and commissions and the Governor's Infrastructure Finance Commission and on and on and on. I've been around for a very long time. And I learned quite a few things that just came natural as the, you know, as this business has progressed over the years. And regionalization and consolidation is a very, very important factor to consider moving forward with not just here in Georgetown, but across the state. A lot of folks, both at the federal and state level, have been talking about regionalization and consolidation, and it's important so that you can get the benefits, the financial benefits, by doing so. And a lot of the things in regionalization and consolidation are common sense things. So instead of drafting an exhaustive report that kind of goes over a lot of the things that you've already talked about and you already know instinctively, we took a look at the information that Nick had provided and some other things and try to summarize, you know, the benefits of you moving forward with the merger. So that's what this kind of letter report is more than anything else. Instead of spending a lot of money, which we didn't think you needed to do, we just did it this way. You know, I think the key is that when you merge and you consolidate an operation, your finances, your overall management, your top-end management is consolidated, and you're allowed some savings there. Your legal, your finance costs, your overall management cost, your equipment purchases, your maintenance and operation functions, depending upon the health of the institutions, the light plant and the water group, you may be able to, you know, bring up your bond rating. There's a significant savings there when you go through your capital to you know, build out through a capital improvement program. I've kind of listed a number of things, and it's in the letter. And if you want me, I can go through the list.
Yeah, I think we would. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's
fine.
important
That's
enough that we can do that.
I think one of the things that you should look at, and I don't think it's been done to date, and maybe it should be done today, is you ought to look at what the initial cost would be to implement a plan. You ought to look at the time it'll take you to integrate the various functions of the departments and your finances. I don't know what those initial costs are at this point. We could do
So that was, in the financial plan, we did have it in there.
Did you have it?
Yeah, that was carrying. So right now, we have Swiss consultants on board who are actually managing the day-to-day. So a company like Swiss Swiss or another company like them could stay on. Hopefully Swiss, because they're already in here and they kind of know the ins and outs.
Okay, good.
But we carried them on for 1 year, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then the next year it was back down. And that was coming from what the level of effort that they thought that they could, that they needed for that transition.
Okay. Obviously, the consolidation of management and administrative functions, you'll realize the savings there. Looking at employee benefits packages, you have certain union obligations that you have to meet. And I'm not sure, outside of attrition, letting, as jobs phase out and people retire, I mean, that's a pretty good way, a less painful way to go through the attrition process and having employees that may have served a long time in both places. You don't want to hurt someone that's been there 28 years and just let them go if they need 2 more years. So there's that consideration. So I'm not quite sure on what exactly you would save there, but over time, I'm sure you'd save some money. It's just how you do it. So you'd have to be sensitive to how you do that.
Just so you guys know, so when I presented to FinCom, one of the questions that came up was insurances. So the light department is at 70-30 for health insurance. The rest of the town is at 60-40, including the water department. So that's a collective bargaining thing. So the water department wouldn't necessarily just assume 70-30. If they were to get that, it would have to be negotiated. And again, what I told the FinCom, and Pete was on the board at the time, he could probably speak better to it, but that from going to 60-40 to 70-30 was to attract and keep line workers, because they were having a hard time in that field because of surrounding towns.
Different rates.
Yeah, different rates.
So at the time, we had lost 1 lineman, and we had 3 young linemen kind of coming up through the training, and they're looking at different towns that were paying higher percentages of health costs along with higher base rates. So in that negotiation, which I think was 3 contracts ago, we had to make some movement on that issue to try to retain people that we were training and not lose more bodies to other, and if we had to replace people, attracting them in as well. So that's why that change was made in that contract several years ago.
We don't have that problem in the water industry. We're not running up against health insurance comps, so I don't foresee that changing.
So do you think it would be neutral?
It'd be, yeah.
Yeah, the net contract impact would be neutral.
Yeah. Obviously, the cost of purchasing goods and services for the joint effort there'd be some savings there. You're establishing a predictable billing and collection system, probably on a monthly basis. You'd probably do it with you, but you don't do it in water.
Correct.
I mean, that's something that will have benefit to the organization, because it'll be predictable in your collections, and it'll be predictable on your cash flow.
Yeah, I think that's something we talked about here. Yep. Quarterly billing is a real problem for us on the water side for several reasons.
Alternative project delivery. What we mean by this is that typical municipal projects are design, bid, build. And in that process, it's a process that takes time, and time is money. And if you can streamline the process through the design, build, and other alternative delivery methods, you can save time and money. And so and the reason I put it here is that in the legislation that has to be filed to allow this to happen, you probably should have a provision in that legislation that allows for alternative project delivery. I didn't see it in there.
It's not in there, no.
Okay, but so that's an organizational impacts. We didn't really see that through Chapter 40 and I think it's 164 that regulates you, and Chapter 40 that regulates the water side, that merging the 2 organizations, there wouldn't be any real regulatory conflicts. You're still going to be under those 2 Mass General Laws, Chapter 164 and Chapter 40. building on the best management practices, taking a look at the best management practices at the light department, it's a very well-run organization. And not that the water department is not, it's just that the light department has more of a critical imperative to run and operate every day, lights on, lights off. Same thing with water, but municipal light departments tend to be a little bit more sophisticated, and so best management practices are kind of work, are part of the daily operation. So the blending of the two will ensure that both groups have a culture of best management practices, and that alone is worth the merger itself.
This is probably something I underestimated. So I sat down with the water department staff maybe 2 Fridays ago and just kind of talked to them about the whole thing that's happening here. And it kind of hit me that they've had, if you count Swiss as a manager, they've had 4 different managers in 6 years, maybe 5 years. When you look at the light department, they've had 2 managers. When did you hire Wayne?
35.
Yeah, 35 years. So it's really taken a toll on these employees, and to set up some sort of structure. There's no, just because we merged doesn't mean that you're gonna get, Dave Schofield for 10 years, the next guy for 30 years. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but there's a long history of hiring a manager at Georgetown Light and keeping that person for a long time.
There's a long history in our business.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at the seniority of most light department managers, Nick's new, but he took over somebody who'd been there for many years, and so you look at the, folks tend to stay in these jobs and grow and try to make their systems better. So.
Which I wholeheartedly agree with, by the way. I think, you heard me, Nick, when I said that's one of the reasons why I was in for this. I mean, I think for me it's been really frustrating to have those 4 managers in 5 years, because operationally, fine, they're collecting checks for water bills, but I have a real problem, and I don't think any progress has been made, quite frankly, in terms of direction of making the water quality better in this town.
Try sitting on that board.
Yeah.
And it's more frustrating.
And, it's one of those things where with the right management, right direction, having a solid, okay, it's going to happen in year 1, it's going to be happening in year 2, 3, 4, and everything else. I think we take, major strides, in at least improving. Are we going to get to where, we're crystal clear? Maybe not, but at least we're making strides, and we're letting our citizens know those strides we're trying to take and actions we're trying to take. So I wholeheartedly agree with management. I think it's probably the major thing, for me. So,
Yeah, you want predictability.
yeah, no doubt.
Okay, consistency, predictability, you want all of that. Okay, because at the end of the day, you have to answer to your customers. You should have best management practices includes some sort of a system where you operate, lack of better terms, in Somerville, Massachusetts, for example. I think even in Amesbury, Massachusetts, they have a system where you if you call in a service call, whether it's power or water or wastewater, and you have a service call, it gets tracked. When the call was made, when the service call was made, what the outcome was, what the costs were, and what the implications of that are on your long-term capital improvement program. So if something keeps breaking on Main Street every 200 yards, eventually you're going to go, Jesus, why don't we just replace? So again, best management practices, if it's done consistently, you're going to save money. Just that alone is critical. Your management structure, we took a look at what you folks had proposed, and it makes sense to have a 5-member board. There's a transition period. I don't know how you'd want to handle that, but I think that you would probably have the selectmen and the 2 boards work together through the transition period, and then have maybe an elective position for your five commissioners. I'm not a big fan of elective
boards. I shouldn't say that in front of an elected board, but in some communities, the selectmen of the city councils appoint the members. In some, they don't. The whole reason why the state many years ago passed the commissions legislation was so that independent commissions would be responsible for water, sewer, and power, and that authority would lay in their hands, and that the blame would lay in their hands as well, and not on a board of selectmen or a city council, so that there would be that wall between. And I don't know what the right answer there is at the end of the day, except it's good to have an independent board running that operation. Whether you appoint them or whether they're elected is up to you. Each town and city has its own reasons for doing so. Operational impacts, centralized maintenance of rolling stock construction equipment. There's cost savings there. The ability to deploy extra teams in an emergency and in dealing with emergencies. We all know how quickly we respond, and what you have for resources are critical, and I think there's some synergies between the two departments.
Yeah, that's something we utilize all the time in Littleton, for these events that come through. You have, more on the power side. On the electric side, you have a 36-hour restoration. We utilize water staff all the time to assist, and I'm sure you do with gas as well.
Yeah, I'm Wakefield Gas and Light, and we use our personnel in non-traditional roles all the time during major events. And we've had it on both sides with gas. We've had major flooding that's caused issues on the gas side that we've used the electric guys for, and we've had major issues on the electric side through storms that we use the gas guys in non-traditional roles. So having those resources to be able to work together is always beneficial to the global group.
And I'm sure there's no problem between the two already in Georgetown as far as utility or reconstruction, whether the gas line's going in or the power line's going in, but the water line's going in the next year, and DPW wants to pave the year after. I'm sure you don't have that problem here, but some communities do have that, and it's something that should always be considered. System-wide asset management planning will be an important consideration as you move forward. I'm sure you probably do that now. And again, I talked about the implementation of a system-wide tracking for service calls, maintenance work orders, emergency repairs, and response times. It's critical for customer service and customer satisfaction. And also the importance of resiliency planning for climate change, or whatever we want to call that today, is an important consideration that you go forward. I mean, again, a lot of the stuff is common sense. There are details that I'm sure you'll still have to work out, but it's in my eyes, being around for a long time, I wish this would happen more. This is a very progressive step, and I wish more communities would take it as seriously as you folks have. And again, I've been around for 35 years. I would hope that you guys would make a positive move here and make this happen.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Tom. Before we get to any questions, I do want to read from an email that Tom sent me today. In closing, it says, quote, "Upon initial review, we highly recommend moving forward with the proposed merger. Finding new ways to meet the challenges of utility management is a must today. Both regionalization, not reorganization, and merging public utility functions is a progressive way to meet the challenges. Comments are meant to provide you with an independent review. ACOM, is that right? ACOM welcomes the opportunity to provide you with unbiased third-party comments. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions." So for the board, Tom is advising, the town to move forward with this. So with that being said, Tom, thank you for the review of that. We'll open it up to any questions, that we have, at this point. So. Brad, why don't you introduce yourself? And then we'll,
My name is Robert Kelly. I live at 20 Cedar Lane. I'm a town member, and I got some questions on part of this.
is you're saying it's a good planned economy of scales, but why, from your point of view, isn't merging highway and looking at a holistic point of view and saying, hey, merging them together, why are we going to spend the money, either constituents or the ratepayers, to do this and merge that? Why aren't we looking at pulling facilities, Mike Anderson's department, out of the school and putting together? Why are we doing it as a consulting point of view? Why isn't your letter saying, hey, it's a good plan, but a better plan and a better cost-effective plan is to pull these departments together? Your management concept of savings is, hey, great. So that's one question. In your financial analysis, have you addressed the fact that the lighting department has a 4-day work week, the water department has a 5-day work week? Is the overtime impact, did you do a numbers analysis on, hey, great, so how do you recommend it if you don't know the numbers on overtime? The next question, a whole bunch of them, is, get the third one, then I'll come back to it, is you're saying you have 2 collective bargaining agreements and you're going to merge them together. Is that you have 2 departments going to merge in one. So they wouldn't work in one department, in one division.
You have separate bargaining agreements in many organizations.
But on health has to be kept at an equilibrium.
No, it doesn't. It's separately bargained. We have, in my department, we have 2 collective bargaining agreements. I worked in Reading for 5 years. They have 3 different agreements.
On the health, they're allowed to have under...
At Eversource, where we all...
That's public trading company.
But still, there's like 9 contracts there now, so there's no requirement that we have all the same contracts. They're separately negotiated contracts.
But now...
I have different benefits at Wakefield for my craft union and my supervisory association. They have separate benefits.
And then you've lived this much longer than I have, so I agree with you. But how do you go to the other departments as selectmen and say, great, a teacher, a policeman, a fireman, or the highway guy is less worth retaining than the lighting guy? How do you guys justify that? How do you look at the other departments during their collective bargaining agreement saying, I love our lighting and water, I got great service, I'm never down, storms, I'm back up, it's great. But how do you look at these other departments and say, hey, they're worth 10% more? And I understand it's collective, they have a better union to collective bargain, but how do you now put these together when the water guys say, hey, I want 60, 70-30? You're gonna tell them, well, you're less important than the other guy?
Well, when we bargain with these unions, we compare them against other towns and equal jobs.
But how about the same person? How, you guys know your industry much better than I do. Absolutely. But how do you look at the teachers and the secretaries who are now in collective bargaining agreement? Yeah, you're not worth 70-30, you're worth 60-40. How do you do that? And what's the financial impact if the town gets kicked back saying, hey, I want it? What is the financial impact on your service calls on the...
So you're looking at a contract that was negotiated 9 years ago. Nothing's changed in 9 years. So the changes came to the lights department 9 years ago for a specific reason. They gave up certain things to get certain things. It was part of a negotiation. I was part of it. I don't even remember it all, but it was a collectively bargained agreement, which is true of any contract you negotiate. There's give and take on both sides. So the people at that time felt it was more important to get 10% extra on the health insurance than a raise that they maybe, I don't even remember what it was, but they took less money on cash. They look, so there were different things that took place during the collective bargain. Just like teachers and police officers, everybody gives up different things and gets different things in their contracts.
No, Pete, and I agree with you that it was a good deal. You guys did the right thing for the lighting department. But part of the consulting thing is, what is the cost impact to the town?
It's no different than it was today. They would have to negotiate that whenever their contract's out.
We hear that now in water negotiations. Oh, light department is 70-30.
But now you're putting them together, so you lose a leg. I'm just saying.
I don't think
now, what is the cost impact that the water department is going to pick up that now Fridays and Saturdays, Fridays are now overtime, so you're not going to go to a 4-day-a-week?
No,
not unless they negotiate it. It's a different contract. Their posted hours in their contract are different hours.
So, but now you're telling me that when the guys that work for water come back in their next contract and say, we want to work 4 days, And you're gonna say no. So you're gonna say, we're staying 5 days.
On the water side, there's an operational benefit to have them there 5 days a week because they have to do well rotations anyway.
But there's an operational benefit to have to split your shifts between Monday and Friday on the utility side also, but you only have 4 days.
No,
If you run a rotating shift, you get better cost savings.
I'm not sure about. Yeah, you might get better cost.
I'm positive about that.
No, we tried it in Littleton. We tried splitting shifts. It was a disaster because you typically need at least 4 linemen to perform any job. So now if you start splitting jobs apart, it's an operational disaster.
The whole reason that we negotiated the 4 10s was that we could keep jobs working for longer on a given day, and so that, you know, we don't have to break it down at 2:30, and so there was a benefit discussed when we did that, but that doesn't directly,
translate.
it doesn't directly apply to the water department. They could talk about it in the next contract negotiation, but we would have to say what are the costs and benefits. When we made that move, the key to going to 410s was that there was no incremental penalty to us. So the way we handled call provisions and the way we handled overtime didn't change. So the incremental cost to the light department was 0. We did not add any cost when we made that move. We made sure of it because so the call pay covers what it covered before, and we made sure that we weren't paying more premiums or it wasn't worth it for us to do it.
But was there no more overtime pay?
No, there was the same amount of overtime pay.
So there was the same overtime pay. But because of protection of the 164, we can't ask for all those financials, right?
We file our financials every
No,
year.
but all the detailed financials on that side, because you're protected by the Chapter 164. Now,
We file.
why aren't we? Why is
we have an audited financial report every year.
It's not presented at town meeting, but the financials are available.
Yeah.
What is the opinion of the consultant to merge DPW and pull lighting out of there? Is that part of your letter that we should do that to save money?
I didn't look at the DPW.
Oh, the highway department.
In the highway department. I didn't look at it.
Why? If you're looking at a cost savings.
Well, because
I asked them to
wasn't
look
asked
at.
to.
Because that wasn't the charge,
Yeah.
But so.
But do you want my gut?
Yeah, what's your gut?
My gut is whatever municipalities can consolidate to save money, they should. And if there's a, you know, if the DPW, the highway department has, you know, the vehicles and they purchase goods and they have employees and they, you know, the answer is yes. There should be, it's a good idea.
Oh, great. So from your years of experience, that's a good idea. So in the selectman point of view, should we step back and then look at bringing the DPW in? Look at bringing the highway in? Instead of paying the money for the lawyers to file the bill at the state to merge them, which I think consolidation and saving money, if it's done right, is a great idea. We got great light, we got great water in the town, we got great highway.
But the one thing you have to do, though, you have to look at the function of the highway department and what their charge is.
But the highway and the water work so well together, digging trenches, working. They work like all the departments in the town. You guys in the light and the water and the highway, they work great together. You can't even tell they're different departments.
So why would that change? Except now the benefit you're getting is on the
Management,
Yeah, the management, the billing systems, the IT systems, all that stuff is more common between two utility enterprise funds than it
That's
is
a good point.
between water and. It's more common between water and electric than it is between water and DPW.
The best synergy is there.
Right, I understand the best because it's
we're
big.
utilities.
Yeah, but there's only 50 public municipal lights in the state of Massachusetts. There are more DPWs than there are municipal lights and water merging. So it's anecdotal, in 351 cities and towns and 50, you got 301 other cities and towns that either use regional or that for a DPW. So it's looking at it, hey, water and lighting. If we look at, I agree with you, Pete, is that two utilities, they work together, they have the English together, they screw together much better. Because they're in the same business. They bill water, they bill, you guys both use outside services to send the bills, you both use outside services to collect the money, so you can put them together and get a cost savings, because now you're spending more money as one. Yeah, the highway department doesn't bill anybody, they bill the town. You know, hey, I gotta buy a new truck, get approval. But why would we rush into this to say, hey, let's look, can we get the savings of bringing the highway department, Peter Durkee's group, maybe Mike Anderson's group in and say that. And your cost savings, you had a great point about taking care of the staff. I thought that was great. Saying, hey, you don't want people, you want to look at attrition. Well, why don't we look at it from an administrative point of view to say, great, we have an accounting department in town hall. Why not move some of the administration under there? Because we use the two utilities use outsourced companies to bill and collect. So you can move staff into the accounting department, which helps the whole town and helps those two departments. We're looking at, hey, screwing the two utilities might be the best thing in a utility world. We're a town. Let's look what's best for the town. Because if we pull the maintenance guys out of the school budget, put them into a DPW, and maybe hire a new employee for that, then we wouldn't be paying contractors to clean town hall, clean the library, clean the public safety building, because then you could use town staff and coordinate. And you only have to file one set of bills at the state, because once we merge you guys, isn't this true? Is that we have to come back to you, the board, to if we have to make changes? So like, we kind of got one shot at it, because you guys are both controlled by ratepayers, correct?
Yeah, that wouldn't change. By covenant, the laws are set up for how Chapter 164 sets of, there's nothing that would change. If you decided down the road that you want to make some different structural change, you'd still have to go back and start from scratch. We looked at the way the two laws went together and what would happen with the boards between the two enterprise funds. The issues with DPW or anybody else are a completely different animal. So
Yeah, I mean, the two boards tried really hard to separate utilities and departments that are under taxes.
And I think it's fine, but we're gonna need to look at it from the town point of view, not just a utility point of view, because all of you guys are town employees. All your employees, all that. Yes, sir.
And after Tom, I know Gary has a question. So.
Very good points. But over time, I've watched regionalization and merger efforts sometimes fail because they try to take on too much.
grand slam home run instead of a base hit.
And so, especially the body politic in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with 351 cities and towns, taking on too much may be a hazard to the overall success of the whole merger and consolidation effort. And so I would recommend that, it's a good thing to do, and if you can do it, and if the political will in the community exists to get it all done like that's okay. But it's not always the case because of a whole bunch of different reasons. And what Nick and the Light Department has laid out is a progressive, good step in making all this happen, not only here, but in other communities across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So, I mean, that's my editorial comment. I know it doesn't totally answer your question, but what did you say?
It's better to hit a bunch of base hits than to try to wait for the grand slam home run.
But it's better to have a good game plan to go before any game.
Don't
Gary, why don't you take it from there?
I was more than a question, was going to comment a little bit to Red. I mean, for me, Red, you've asked questions of the selectmen also, and one of the first questions I asked when they came before us is this a step towards a DPW? And their answer was no. They're not looking at it that way. So it's two elected boards have come to us, the Board of Selectmen, with this plan, and we're following through. And I think one step at a time. You've brought up some excellent points. Not to say that in the future we don't want to look that way. I think Mr. Farrell would go that way a lot over there as town administrator. But some of the things that you've also brought up, we have done. I mean, we've recently, Mike can relate better the procedure, but as far as maintenance, we're now able to get some of the school department maintenance done, like here at the town hall and things of that sort. And Mike has worked with the school committee on that for the Board of Selectmen. So there are moves being made to do, I think, just what you're saying. It is being looked at, but I guess their answer might have been the best, at this point, maybe one step at a time. And, they're independently elected boards, and they came to us with that, asked us to put it on here, and that's where it's at, and they're having the meetings. But to a lot of the questions you're asking, I think it goes beyond what they're doing right now. Not to say that they shouldn't be asked at one point. I'm just not sure, where you ask them. I think you want to come before us with a plan or something at some point. I think great, but we've also, years back when I first started in this, Mike mentioned something last week about something. We had a government study commission, and it just, man, I worked hard on that thing, and nothing happened. So we, unfortunately, many times as a town, we do lots of plans and lots of planning, and some of it, unfortunately, we have to pay for. And then boards and committees change and they don't get implemented. So here they are bringing something forward, and hopefully, if the townspeople are in favor of it, this is going to get implemented, and it should have some cost savings. And if further down the road, the town chooses to go in those steps, I don't want to give you my opinion on the DPW, but I'm not, negative of anything. We, as a board, have looked just last year. Was it last year, Mike, that we did talk about perhaps pulling the highway position from the elected position and the town clerk? As a matter of fact, the town clerk got presented at town meeting, and I think overwhelmingly got voted down. We didn't move the highway surveyor position forward at the time. But so those things have been, they're kicked around here.
Every 5 years.
Yep.
And by the way, the electric light, I think it's like 3 years, 3 guys in probably over 55 years or something like that.
Yeah, because if you go back to
Jimmy
Hayes.
Hayes, yeah, a long time.
Carry on it.
Thank you.
All right, get back.
Just a quick question. You had mentioned one of your recommendations was to implement a tracking system for service calls and whatnot. Do we have that now?
No.
No. So that's. Do you foresee that as software? Is that software out on the market that we can buy, or?
Oh, yeah.
It's software.
Okay.
And Wakefield, I
You
have.
can do it on your own.
I have
You don't need to
gas.
hire anyone.
Yeah, there's off-the-shelf stuff you can buy now. I have gas and electric, and I have an incident management system. I don't call it my electric outage system. I don't call it my gas leak system. It's my incident management system. So it takes calls for electric or gas by customer, and so I could see they called in last year for an electric outage. They had a gas leak here. They had a service call. They had so. And there's off-the-shelf software you can get for that.
Yeah, that sounds like, I mean, the whole trending piece that you're referring to know where you kind of, all these tickets are coming in to see where there are problems are. I think that's a huge benefit to you guys.
Especially on the water side.
Yeah. So I would just say, I don't remember seeing that in any of the financials that we had before. That might be something we want to see, like how much that would cost to.
But those are the kind of things that, like once you have one person in charge and they're looking at that, those are the incremental benefits of management that you're going to see as Dave, opens the hood on this one and that one and see how you can bring them even further together. I mean, we've kind of identified the low-hanging fruit. You don't know what's going to be possible 2, 3, 4 years down the road once he's looked at both these things at a much deeper level. I mean, you're going to see those benefits keep coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about customer satisfaction, and that goes a long way in making sure the customers are happy. So whatever decision you make, that they know that there's going to be some measure. There's always got to be a metric.
Yep. No, it makes sense. That's all I had.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to say that I hear what Red's saying. I agree with the concept of it, but I also would caution having too much change thrown into the same bucket. It could very well be too overwhelming and cause problems in implementation. But these things, and to reiterate what Gary said, there was a proposal, I don't know, 2 or 3 so years ago, to have a centralized maintenance department taken from the school department, have it set under highway, and to take care of all the buildings in the town. Right now, we do get Mike Anderson's group that does do work in town hall, over at the senior center and all. So those things are like works in progress. As far as highway, there's nothing saying that we can't look at highway moving into a merged electric water. And those are things that have been discussed. I would just caution about putting too much in one bucket, because it can very well overwhelm the whole process. But they are things that we have looked at over years, just that haven't been implemented, or it didn't work out for some reason. you know, so, now, oh, I know, when you were talking about whether the boards were elected or appointed, a question came to mind. Does the electric water department and a merged board ever consider changing from an elected to an appointed position?
That's not how the legislation was written. The way we wrote it was,
So you have to have elected?
that's what our boards were choosing to do.
Well, okay, that answers my question.
Yeah.
So you don't have any plans on changing from an
No,
elected to an appointed?
no, we were gonna take the existing 3 light commissioners and 2 of the existing 3 water commissioners. They would form 1 5-member board
To start.
to start, then they would fill out their terms and pull for re-election for when their terms expired.
And it'll be a 2-2-1 cycle, basically.
Right.
Based on the current way it works.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's all I have. I pretty much understand the reasons for doing it. We're no longer a small town, and we have an infrastructure that's 100 years old. So we happen to be the people alive at the time that all these infrastructure changes need to take place. So we might as well start handling it and move forward so that the folks that live 100 years beyond us.
So there was one more. So in the financials, the peak shaving generators are a big part of future opportunities, and Pete has a couple of them in Wakefield. So where that represents such a huge number, I don't know if you guys had any specific questions for Pete with that program. I think you guys have been online for a year.
A little over a year now. So we have 2 units that have generated over $800,000 of savings in the first year for our electric customers. So the site that exists that we potentially use where the water department is now, and it's actually the light department building, that having a single generator there would probably be a very good opportunity for additional savings long term. The peak shaving market right now carries a lot of value. And so therefore, that benefit that Nick's talking about that was carried in there could have a huge benefit to the town. We rented generators 1 year, and that's expensive. And long term, we're looking at our investment in our generators. Again, we did 2. We have less than 5-year payback on those based on the way we're operating them. And so there's a lot of opportunity there for if we were to do a peak shaver here in Georgetown.
Is that what we were talking about, Nick, over at current site for water?
Yep, and then we also talked about that being grid resilient, so that way, if the transmission lines did go down for 3 days, which is going to happen at some point, we could fire those up and at least pick up parts of downtown, Crosby's gas station, restaurants, and maybe even do rolling blackouts. That needs to be engineered, obviously, but you could pick up some part of our load and keep the town somewhat sane during a multiple day outage.
Emergency buildings.
Probably get a discounted rate from the electric department.
I don't think so.
So yeah, so there's benefit to those type of operational moves.
I'm sure to global warming, that's never going to happen. Rolling blackouts and everything. No way.
That's
The
not the problem.
likelihood's only getting worse.
Not
not
here.
better. Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? From the board comments. One question I did have. So we talked about Littleton, or that was mentioned. I know Wakefield. You have gas and electric.
Yeah.
What other communities have water and electric?
I don't know if you know them, but
Littleton, Templeton.
Templeton. Concord's more like what Red's saying. They're under a whole public works.
It's probably 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's 4 or 5.
So the
Hingham
question-
is in the process of doing exactly what we're doing right
What?
now. Hingham is doing exactly what we're doing right now.
So the question I have is why aren't there more communities, that have done it? I mean, if it makes a lot of sense here, why wouldn't it make sense in a lot of other communities?
I think the industry likes it.
I think you're going to see more. The discussion has just started in Wakefield, because they're hearing about others. I mean, so Hingham and Georgetown doing it at the same time, and Templeton doing it just a few years ago, and there's a couple others, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think there's 4 or 5 current existing ones.
Yeah, so I mean, I think what's happening is it's starting to get a little, because again, everybody's looking for economies of scale, and all the items that or listed, there's benefits because you're dealing with multiple utilities. So you have the same overall thing. You need to provide the service, collect, provide customer service and collect the money. And there's common threads between all those, between IT systems, between craft workers. There's a lot of things that are common that you can bring together. So I think you're going to see more and more. So again, there's 2 active ones right now and a few others that are already starting to have those discussions.
Yeah, Hingham's following us very closely. I talk to them probably monthly.
they're
And exchange
moving.
ideas. They're actually taking a step further. They're buying their system from Eversource now, was Aquarian. I think they're looking to spend, tens of millions of dollars, $65 million to purchase their system from that private utility because they're tired of it.
Yeah.
Part of it, I think, is political will.
Yep.
So,
I mean, again, a lot of it for me is management, but like for Hingham, I mean, are they doing it from a financial, because it makes sense financially, or do they have maybe the same types of problems we do here?
No, I think they're doing it to try to bring water under town control. Because right now it's Eversource, it's a private utility.
Yeah.
So they don't think they're getting the service they want. The rates are through the roof. So they're trying to get a little bit better
it's a
control.
rate stabilization. I think they're looking for rate stabilization over the long term, and because that plant is reaching some capacity, and so it's going to, if the company that owns it now does it, the cost is going to be X because they can, versus if it's controlled by the town, the cost is going to be X less because you're going to get the heat for the increase in the rates. So again, there's a political will to do that there.
Yeah, I think the
it's a good
Selectmen
one.
and
It's a good
Hingham
move.
are pushing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, our neighbor Ipswich, they're under a different model in terms of the directorship, but the utilities are both together. There's a utility director
Yeah,
that
Tim,
is just, it used to be Tim, and now
Yeah.
John Blair.
John Blair has electric and water. So there's another place so the billing's done together, it's the same exact thing.
Okay. Any further questions from the board, outside the board, Fred? Sure.
So you have a meeting coming up, right?
Yes, so Wednesday, 7 o'clock at High School Auditorium is
High school.
our information night.
And I saw today that you're also planning on presenting at the senior center.
Yes, I am, yeah.
I'll probably make that one because
I've been
Wednesday's a
getting
busy
around.
night. So
Yeah, sure. I don't know why everything happens on Wednesdays.
You're not a senior yet, are you?
When's this?
I forget. What's the day of the senior? Dave, I'm not sure.
in April, I think it was.
Yeah, it's in April.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think Tuesday, I thought.
Do you have any other questions, Russ?
I'm okay. Board members, Mike?
Good.
No?
Thank you,
Okay.
gentlemen.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for attending. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, Red.
Red, thanks for coming out.
Joe, do you want me to stay and talk about the water department, or are there other topics?
Yes, actually, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
That was
Okay, you're good?
Yeah. Thanks, Pete.
So yeah, Dick and I were also talking about some other recent information that he wanted to share, and I thought it would be helpful for the board to hear it. So Nick, I'll give you the
Yeah, so
that.
yeah, I know you guys care about the water quality in town. So while I was here, I asked Joe if it made sense for me to stay and update some of the projects that we're working on. So he said, yeah, sure. The storage tank at Long Hill is now finally online, so that project is complete.
Great.
Which should help with water age in that end of town. So we should see some minimal increase in water quality. Nothing that's gonna, you're not gonna see any positive reviews on Facebook because of it, but it does start that process. One of the bigger projects that we're looking at is that Marshall's well. That's our main producing well that we talked about before. We're starting to lose it. It's on its last leg. We awarded that contract a couple weeks ago, so that's underway. That is we're gonna lose a well when we do that because we're gonna start the project and that well needs to come offline. And we're working with Raleigh on an interconnection to be able to supplement our water with their water. And their water is they built a new membrane treatment plant probably 5 years ago, so they have fully treated and filtered water. So that'd be a positive for water quality. And then once that well's online, it's supposed to be hopefully a big producing well. Should feed most of the town off that well. So
How long are we looking for that?
to get it online,
Yeah.
probably the fall.
Fall.
Yeah. So we'll end up losing that well for, from spring to fall.
Okay.
So that's sources, that's storage. Water mains, we started looking at water main projects, and there was 2 that we identified that would help with both fire flow and quality. So one of the projects is down Summer Street off of North Street, and that's going to run 12-inch main right to the high school. And that's mostly for fire flow and improves the fire flow to the high school. But it's also for quality. It's one of the older mains in town. So getting that main out, it would help out our neighborhoods if we connected all the way back to Pillsbury and Bernay. So that's one of the water main projects. The other one is through the gun club. We're going to be connecting Old Jacobs Road through Pond Street, which gives us really 3 fingers. So our treatment's on one side, and then a lot of our load is on the other side of the common. There's really only 2 paths for the water to get from treatment to customers. And one path is through the common, which is the oldest main in the system. So there's a lot of just old pipe full of iron tuberculation. So if we get more fingers into the other side of town, that helps with quality and also flow. So those are 2 water main projects. And the last is on the treatment plant. So that's some of the boards been kicking around for a while. The treatment plant works 90% of the time. It really does. It's during backwashes. So when they go to clean the filters, that's when these slugs of iron and manganese can get out into the system. That's what causes all these all the negative water calls that we get. So it finally got an RFP ready to go out to bring an engineer on to look at the treatment plant in whole. There was a firm that we hired probably 6 years ago that came in and just said you need to build a new plant, which isn't the case. We don't need to build a new plant. We just need to spend money wisely at the plant. And whether it's and if you saw the financials I gave you, one of the things was to install a pre-treatment clarifier before the filters to knock the iron down. Those filters are meant and designed to handle a certain amount of iron coming through them. The iron's is just a little too much right now. So if you can knock the iron down ahead of time before it hits the filters will do a much better job at much longer run times, much better job at removing iron and manganese. Then there's other things we need to look at, such as installing a clear well, a tank attached to the plant, so that way when we go to backwash, it's not going into the system, it's going to a tank, and we can use the tank to wash it. So those are some of our thoughts, but the firm is gonna dictate what we do. So when I did the water rate analysis for the merger, all those projects, what we estimated them to be, are in that financial plan. I agree with you, Joe. I mean, our water's gotten better in 7 years, but not good enough to be bragging about. We're far, far, far from it. So, I want to keep on, and the board wants to keep on pushing, and it'd be good to get a good manager in there to help lead this. Right now, the board is managing these things too much because we don't have anybody in there that's running these projects. And we meet once a month, so you can't run these projects meeting once a month.
And for the board, I mean, what I've said, consistently is, I mean, as residents of the town, they want to see results, in terms of, water quality getting better. But I more so think that they want to know, kind of what's being done, steps that are being taken to at least improve, the water quality. They want to know what the expectations are, for that person who has to, consistently endure, those times when, the manganese is in the water and they turn their faucet on and it's, it's orange, it's very disheartening, especially when you're paying a pretty good tax rate here in town, to keep our services, the way they are. So, I think, what I really, just want to see is more communication with our citizens, let them know what's going on, give them realistic expectations, both short and long term. And I think, we'd be happy with, strides. It doesn't all have to, come at once, but if we're taking some really nice strides, for our people to really kind of wrap their arms around, I think everyone will be happy.
Yep, I agree. Well, it's something we talked about recently, because when this well comes down, we don't want people to start watering their grasses if there's not going to be water for it. So, we're working with Raleigh. If we interconnect with Raleigh, it's going to be at a much higher cost. So we need to figure these things out and let people know that, if you plan on watering your grass this year, A, can you? And B, if you can, what's the rate going to be? Because the worst thing you can do is have them start water. I water my grass. I like a green lawn. Is to start watering your grass, and then, in July say, okay, you can't water it anymore. And then now it's just money that's wasted.
Right.
Nick, what's the, well, we only have one operational facility now in Healthy Farms, but with their proposed expansion, have they given you any increased water projection?
They haven't, but those facilities don't tend to use a lot of water. They use a lot of electricity, but I think they're recycling the water because they're not big draws on water.
Okay. Could I ask you another question? There is a proposed, I believe it's 55-plus development going to be going on 133 in West Boxford or Boxford, which my understanding is will draw from the same water source that we draw from. Is the board aware of that?
No.
And should we be talking to the town of Boxford about it?
I mean, there's nothing we can really do. So,
No, I know.
I mean, do they have town water in Boxford, or are they drilling their own wells for?
No, it would be wells over there. So it's in relative close proximity to our own well fields. So it's that, but it's in West Boxford.
Yeah.
And the piece
Oh, is it over by off of West Street? If you keep on going,
off of, yeah.
West Street
down-
turns into.
Down off of 133 and in that area there.
Yeah,
I forget the, I don't think I have, I think this is a different.
Washington Street.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much we can do. Those aren't permitted sources. If you pull less than 100,000
Oh, no,
gallons
this
a day.
is 47 West Street.
Yeah. There's not much we can do to really stop it. But I can have Bruce reach out to them and see what their plans are.
Well, just to find out what they expect their draw to be.
Maybe we can serve them rather than drill wells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Nick, you good?
Yeah.
Is that your last thing?
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you very
All
much.
right.
I appreciate the
Yeah,
update while you were here.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for all the work, man.
No problem. Take care.
Have a good night.
Right.
All right, Al. So let's just go down from the top. So we got a letter of resignation from Nancy Thompson from the Council on Aging. Let me see if I have anything here. Yep. Okay, so,
We have a letter from her.
yep, we do have, well, no, sorry, I thought we had a letter, but it's just from the town
Yeah,
clerk.
there it
Oh, we
is.
do have a letter
Where is it?
from her.
Oh, hold on, let me see.
Moving out of town.
Right there.
Oh, that was I didn't know that was a letter.
Yeah. I'll be careful.
Let's see. Okay, so if I could read it, because of a move out of Georgetown, I submit my resignation on the board of the Council of Aging. It has been an interesting and informative, thank you, 6 years. I'll miss you. So Nancy, thank you so much for all of your years of service, to the town. We really appreciate it, and we'll certainly miss you, on the board.
Right, Nancy's been a long-term resident of the community, and she's moving out for a less, well, just the cost of maintaining a big house by yourself is a lot. But she's been a big help to the Council on Aging over there. So,
Let's see, moving forward.
okay, we don't have to approve that. She just quit.
So we have deed approval. I'm going to go down to deed approval, Concom Land Map 11, Lot 11. Mike, can you bring us up to speed on that?
Well, this is part of a development that they have vacant land that they want to, or are being required to give over to the Concom. The Concom's ready to accept it. They need approval from the board. All the
You said they're being required to do it?
This one's the Muse one.
no, okay.
I think of the Baylor Lane one. That's next meeting.
Okay, the Bailey Lane was is the planning board made it conditional of approval. This one, the Concom wants this land. And it's a donation. It's a long time in coming because of the deed problems and getting all the family and to sign off on it, but it's all ready to go now.
I don't know, maybe a stupid question. Why does Concom want, the land? It sounds like they're
Okay.
after it after. Yeah, go ahead, Gary.
It's all part of what has been called the Greenway through that section of town off from West Main Street. and
okay.
Going out that way. Community preservation has over the years been acquiring different parcels in that area that are somewhat landlocked. And it's part of that project in a way. I think, is it the Greenway that we call it?
Well, that's what it's been
Yeah.
called, the Greenway, unofficially.
So that's sort of what it is. Conservation's been working on this for a while.
And it is being purchased with CPC
That's what I couldn't
funds.
remember. I
Yeah.
think this was approved last year, was it?
Yes.
Was it? Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So
at
it's
town
also, so this was approved, I guess, last year
Okay.
as a community preservation project.
Right. Well, I just remember, even to your point, Gary, you and I agreed on it, is a lot of this
Yes.
land that is kind of leaving
some
the rent,
point we
I mean,
wanna-
the tax rolls is,
Yeah.
so I'd like to know why, these are coming up, but if this was already approved, then whatever.
Maybe
All right.
we should get updated sometime on that Greenway project. I mean, it's been quite a project over a number of years, and it is coming together. It's
Yeah. Okay. Any comments on it? No? All right, Doug, go ahead.
Chair, I move to accept the deed for land shown on a plan of land entitled Plan of Land Located off Rosemary Lane in Georgetown, Mass. Owner of record, Joseph and Michelle Muse. Assessor map reference, map 11, lot 11. Locus title reference, book 2636, page 466.
No, back up to 26.
What did I say? 26536.
36, there you go. Yep.
Page 466, dated September 19, 2018.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, all those in favor?
I
Opposed?
Joe,
Yeah.
point of order. Are we going to go back in a non-public executive session to talk about the fire department?
This evening,
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on it.
Oh, okay, because Fred was waiting to be notified whether he should come over or not.
Oh, no, I don't think we really need to do that.
All right.
Thank you. All right. All right, so let's stay on the old business. May as well, kind of go just, further down. We're gonna go to the warrants.
Liquor license.
Mike, if you wanna, pick this up with the warrants. Kind of step us through.
Yeah, this is the last meeting before we send off the warrants to the legal, and I need, the board needs to vote on whether or not they support or not support the articles.
Okay, so we're gonna just.
Voted and put them on, but you haven't voted your support or non-support.
Yep. Okay, so we're just gonna go one by one?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna start with, which one?
We set a special time.
Special town meeting?
Yeah, let me get over there. I had the annual town meeting queued up.
I got it right here.
Okay,
I just want to make notes on.
yeah. So right now, we only have that one adjustment to the operating budget that's had to do with the Georgetown CARES money that was swept into the general fund last year, and they had already spent $21,733.90 of it. So that counts in deficit, and we have to transfer money from that'll have to come out of free cash.
Okay. Done?
I still don't understand that, because the monies that were received totaled $25,000 from the first 2 years of that contract. And we spent $21,733. There should not be a deficit.
There is. It happened after the money was swept effective June 30th, or July 1. Money was spent after July 1. There was no money there to spend.
They didn't get the bill in for what they purchased till after the beginning of the year, so, and the DOR put the money.
But there's still $25,000
Yeah,
that should.
we don't lost it. There's still $4,000 floating around
That's
someplace.
last fiscal year. We can't, no, it's not, well, it's in, it got swept, 21,000 of it got swept into this year's free cash. Well, the free cash that was certified, it went from our budget into free cash. There was nothing there to spend out of the FY18 budget.
Well, I know that the Georgetown Cares Coalition Committee was unaware of that until after the fact. When we
Well,
bought,
that's when we
when we
were,
bought the vape detectors.
that's when we were aware of it, because like Janet said, the bill came in after the end of the fiscal year, and it was, DOR had swept it out of that.
So where'd the $4,000 go?
I think we used that on legal. We'd used, was it that not, well, I can't remember, that wasn't legal. No, that was on the other money,
Over
yeah.
on where we have a contract stating what those monies should be used for.
Yeah.
I'd have
So
to
we
look
have
back, but I think they
$4,000
spent
floating around
some,
someplace.
There were additional
I think there were some other costs that they had.
minor.
They did the
Website.
website.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but they were pretty certain. I have to go back to the chair and go over those records.
Mary would have, the town accountant has the fundings, but I know they spent money for the website. So that
wasn't
came out of
much,
the,
huh? That was $1,500.
and that she might put in, I don't know what else. the
But we're
committee
just
put in.
taking that 21 that was there in FY18, it got swept into free cash, so it's the same money, it's just got a different name on it.
Question.
Well,
Next.
but there's $4,000 that's here that's supposed to be. I'll check.
I'll have
We'll-
I'll have to get back to you on that, but the money was spent by the committee.
Well, there could be
I'll
more
check.
than-
No, I'll check.
There could be more than 21. We're just saying that's what her bill is to be paid. That's not saying what the balance is in the Georgetown Cares account. This is the
I'll-
bill for
Yeah.
that has to be paid.
I won't beat this with a lead bat. I'll go
Right.
talk to the chair, and we'll get the records that she has.
Well, talk to Mary first.
Well, I'll talk to Mary at the same time.
Gary?
The money we're talking about is the money that the cannabis host agreements
For medical.
for medical gives for, what's the term I'm searching for? This isn't funds that come to the town. This was
Community outreach.
This-
for community outreach.
Drug prevention.
Drug prevention.
Substance use and misuse,
Okay.
education or donations.
So my question is, and really going back to my memory of the host agreements, that wasn't anything that we negotiated. That was something that the state at the time told the facilities they had to do, if I'm correct.
I don't believe so, Gary.
No, I don't know.
We negotiated that.
We negotiated.
Yeah, well, Healthy Farms offered.
But I thought that
We-
the state was telling them that they had to do something.
No.
Okay, so
The
we didn't.
CCC may do that later.
Okay, so, well, no, then that's good, because that's clearing me up, because I was questioning whether the town should even be handling that money. But to what I guess, so to what you're saying, I don't see it as 4,000, I see it as 3,266.
Well, I was using round figures.
Well, 3,266 or something this year. So is that, if that doesn't get spent, then that can just go into free cash? That was really where I was going with the question.
Yeah.
I mean, if this money was to be used for community outreach, but it didn't get used, then it's okay to just drop it into free cash.
Not okay, it's required by
Okay.
DOR.
Yeah, DOR
Okay.
is making us do that. But, you know, that, and I think that's what, you know, Doug is saying is almost like we need to have, I don't know, separate, you know, kind of line item, which we can't do, but we got to keep track of what we get in.
Well, we do now.
And what,
The new, there's a line item in there in this
Oh, we do.
2020 budget
Okay,
for $20,000.
okay. So, you know, that's the thing, we just got to keep track, because that's where the money, you know, that's what Healthy Farms, you know, thinks, you know, or expects that money to be used
Yes.
for as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's specific language.
Yeah.
Of what that is to be used for.
So we just, you know, we
had-
talk to Mary and.
Yeah, we had parked it in the Selectmen's gift account, and that gift account got determined,
I know, I had asked for it to be in a different account.
well,
It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
what's done is done.
Yeah, so, all right.
I'll check with Mary and with Pam and.
Yeah, they have the figures.
So that's probably nothing we want to vote tonight then.
well, you don't have another chance to vote on this, then pass over it.
Yeah.
I just want everybody to know that that committee did not deficit spend. It was totally unknown to everybody.
Okay.
No, it was unknown. You're right, it was unknown. It just, because we didn't think DOR would wipe that account away. But because it came in after July 1, it got wiped away.
Okay. All right, so we had to vote this?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Well, yeah, because we'd have a deficit.
I mean, what are we voting, to keep these on, or we're voting whether we agree with them or not? What's
You
the
already
motion?
voted to have them on.
Yeah,
Now it's whether you support
so,
its
okay,
passage or
so these are
not.
what we're doing is the recommendations
Yep.
that will be
Yes.
printed for town meeting evening in the
Correct.
Finance and Advisory.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. So how are we gonna vote these?
Just mention special town meeting
Make a motion to
19-01.
support Article 1.
All right, you wanna do these, Doug, or?
I won't do that one.
You wanna do that? Gary, you wanna do
Do
this?
we need to
Yeah.
do any of the other articles on this? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I make a motion on Article 1, special town meeting 19-01 to approve the amount of $21,733.90.
I think you want to use the word support.
Okay, support.
Support the passage of
Do you want me to say it all
Article 1.
over again?
I think Janet's got it.
Janet wrote it down right, okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Opposed?
I just won't vote on it.
Oh, abstaining?
Abstain, thank you.
Okay. All right, Article 2, appropriation of free cash for the snow and ice deficit for fiscal year 2019. Like, looks like we're just putting the 300,000 from free cash.
No, you won't put a number there yet.
No?
We'll
Okay.
fill in the number, but in the motion, right now, well, as of last week, I think I put that in the my new weekly report, which I thank Kip for, and I hope everybody, we finally got it where you all are getting good information. We're at 150,351.96, which is, you know, anytime we can stay below 200 grand, we're doing really well.
I agree.
I don't want to jinx
I was
it.
just gonna say, why did we say that?
Yeah.
Well, do we have any outstanding bills?
There's probably some. That's not a final figure.
Yeah.
We'll get the final figure once when we print the motions.
Okay.
since the chair went through to mention it all, and he pretty much read what's up there, can I just say move to support?
Yeah.
Move to support?
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Doug, you are a,
Oh, aye. I thought
Okay.
I said aye.
I'm sorry if I missed it. I just want to make sure all our votes are there, you know, for the, to print. Okay, Article 3, Tax Stabilization Fund.
That move to support.
Let's see if there's a-
Question.
25%.
Is that 25%? Yep.
Well, that, you
That's
you
what I'm
have,
saying,
you
right?
haven't determined a percentage. This is just, it's a minimum of 25%
Right.
Okay.
Did
for
the
3 years.
Did the finance at their last meeting make a decision on that, or would they?
Yes, they voted in support of all 3 of these.
But didn't they put a figure there?
25%.
I thought they went with more. I tried to find my notes on it today, but I couldn't find them.
Not that I recall. I'm pretty sure it was the 25%.
Yeah, by the way, on Article 3, it says to see is the town. There's a small typo there. You have to put see if the town.
I'll second it.
To see, oh, if, yeah, is.
Okay, can I ask, Mr. Chair, if I'm gonna vote to approve this, I would like to see some final numbers in there. I mean, I am 100% in the theory, but I mean, I'm having trouble voting to approve it as printed. I mean,
It's a blank. You have to put a number in.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Us or
Yeah.
FinCom?
But I think,
It's your warrant article.
Okay.
I don't recall having a discussion of anything different than 25%.
I remember discussing it. I just can't remember whether they did come up, and a third got mentioned, 33 and a third. Now, whether they voted that way, I can't remember. Because I also threw out you could go 50, 25, 25. I mean,
Well, what's budgeted now?
I think that they were gonna, that was this board's decision, not their decision.
What have we budgeted in there? I mean, is...
Well, we haven't budgeted nothing, it goes into
I know, but I mean-
it.
it's a certain percent of what comes in, so we have,
So
what
it's-
he's saying, we have to do a minimum of 25 for the state. So, you know, I would rather see the motion withdrawn and put 33 and a third % in there on each one of them.
So to get the retail excise tax at
That would,
100% into those
Yes.
three funds.
yes.
Well, we're in the discussion,
I don't
so...
have an issue with that.
Yep.
I don't have an issue with that either.
You won't be able to
This
touch
is the
that
three meet 3 years.
revenue
For
for
3 years.
4 years.
But, you know, we, at the beginning of this year, we were all very concerned with that Moody report and building these things up, and so,
Well, one thing to remember is that I'm more, by the way, Gary, I'm more thinking, do we, overfund one, than the other? Like, do we have more of a need in one of them than another, or do we fund them all the same, or, you know what I'm saying? It's...
I do.
Yeah,
I understand that.
But we
I mean,
have projected some pretty good revenue, if everything goes well, next year, so that'll kind of lighten our load.
The thing to remember is you still have a medical cannabis host agreement, and you have a adult use host agreement on top of the 3% retail excise, local excise tax, and that's what this is all about, that 3% local
So
excise.
this deals strictly with that
With
excise
the excise
tax.
tax, or...
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with the
Right.
medical or anything.
And we're at this point not sure on the recreational host agreements and that.
Right.
But the medical host agreement, I believe, some of that money is being used this year to balance the budget. So,
I believe you might be right on that.
yes, so so this is dealing with the tax that will come in as excise tax, and the law allows us to do something with this. So, I mean, let me say that, yeah, I would ask Doug that you perhaps withdraw the motion and put it back that we're putting 33 and a third. I mean, I think each one of these things is equally important, and we've had Powers and Sullivan, who does our audit here, saying that we should be funding these things. The Moody report came out, and one of the things we said in the Moody report that they looked in favor of us was that we had this coming in. So I think this is the chance to do the right thing
But they also
with these
said
funds.
that they just wanted us to make the effort, to...
Well, I think we deserve to make more than an
Well,
effort,
I think we
especially.
need to, because they've been ignoring this, and we're lower than we should be
And-
on the STAB fund.
And you have to remember,
We haven't been doing the OPEB.
the stabilization fund especially, once that gets built up to where it needs to be, and if it continues to get built up, then at town meeting, you pull from there when you have other special projects. So it's not like we're really taking anything away. So.
Well, the only question that I have for the board before we move forward on this number is, so hypothetically, if you did 25, 25, 25, leaves 25%, obviously, and that projected number was what last year, for next year, Mike? They were projecting, say,
It
9?
would have been about 250,000.
So 250 altogether
Yes.
was what the pool is. So, take, a quarter of that, right, which is, what, 60-something thousand. Is there an area, that we would want to push that 60,000 to next year that we are, kind of longing for? Because, we're still putting in some pretty good money into these funds. if we decide to just put the 25, right? So we go to 25, 25, 25, take the other 25% and allot it somewhere else for the following year. So that's the question. Do we want to,
No, I say, that's the budget season, and we get through that. Here's our chance to work on the Moody's report. If to what you're saying, I could see 40, 30, 30 or something, but I like to think that we're putting something in capital. But if you feel like a need to go with the stabilization fund in the beginning, and remember, this is, Mike, how does this work? Do we have to redecide this every 3 years?
No, it stays that way until after, you can stop it.
After 3 years, we can
on the-
revisit it
You can
or leave
stop it on the 4th year.
Or we just leave it?
You just let it ride.
The board has that authority?
Yeah, somebody has to make it an affirmative vote to stop it. Otherwise, it
But I mean,
just keeps going there.
I think this deserves some discussion. If you think the OPED, perhaps you don't see as much importance there, maybe go 40, 40, 20. There's lots of formulas you could
gotta
use.
go at least 25.
But I think that we, oh yeah, okay. But I think that maybe we get this out of the way. I'm for putting 100% of it into these three. Maybe I should say that first.
well, to my point I was making though, so even the 60,000, we'll call it 60. So I know that this board was presented with, a plan from Mike, a financial plan that even, the town follow a certain percentage to leave in free cash, year over year, right? Mike, is that money that we could just put in free cash, the 60,000, or is that?
You mean the leftover, the
Yeah, if we did-
25%?
yeah.
Yeah, that would go to free
And
cash.
I guess that's what I'm talking about. Are there other areas that we also have, some plans for where we can just say, hey, listen, you know what, we're gonna leave this 60, but it has to go towards free cash in our effort as a town to build up that free cash to where we wanted to see it.
Well, we've been okay on free cash without this, pretty much. I mean, we've even two years while I've been here used free cash to balance the budget, which isn't, you don't really want to do. But so I mean, our free cash has been there, the way Mike and finance have been budgeting. So I'm not so sure I see that need. Because you've got the source here to put this money up front. Myself, I'm all for taking it up front, not waiting for later and drawing from free cash. That's like waiting for the scraps as far as I'm concerned. Here's a chance to take something you're coming in up front and put it in some savings for the town. Now that savings is there for the town to use in the future. And it's there to help us with the Moody rate. And the capital, definitely. We've the capitalization stabilization fund. That is, I think, Mike, similar to the tax stabilization fund. That's not just there for the capital planning committee to use. That's got to be decided also by the town by a 2/3 vote.
That's right.
To pull out of there.
Yes.
And OPEC, we need to start building that. I mean, we really do. We talk about it every year, and we've one year made an effort to put some money in there.
If we don't start building OPEB at the same rate, we're getting dinged for not funding OPEB just as bad as we're getting dinged for not bringing up stabilization.
Mike, at the end of this year, whatever you, I know you gave us a projection, where are we with free cash?
$650,000 right now.
Right now, and then we
Yeah, it might be a little bit higher. Yeah, the 21.
Yeah.
And and 200 or so for
So we'll have,
snow and ice.
so we're projecting somewhere 350 to 400 something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's pretty good actually.
Yeah, I mean, it has in most of the years I've been here.
I mean, I'm comfortable with that.
I think there was one year that it was rather low in my
Oh, it's very
memory.
low, I
that-
remember that.
Oh,
But,
yeah,
it might have not been it was so low.
Down to $8,000 one year.
But there was also the year that we got hit real heavy with the winter snow also, but, so,
All right, Doug, I know you gotta.
I just wanted to remind everybody that we do have other facilities that are working on opening, and they all have host agreements. All of those are B2B, so we'll have monies from those host agreements once they come online.
that also goes into
Well, that would go,
general budget,
yes.
yes.
Yes, and then the excise tax on the one retail operation that's in the community, the local excise tax, that's what we're talking about for this. We'll still have other monies coming in from the medical hosting agreement and the hosting agreements from the other facilities once they open.
Plus, we will have an additional 3% from Healthy Farms for the community host agreement for,
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, that's what, yeah,
well, yeah,
yes.
and the other ones that might come online.
Right, right.
But there'll be 250,000 from the excise tax and another 250,000 from the 3% host agreement just from
Right.
Healthy Farms adult use marijuana.
And I might mention that the revenues from retail sales across the state are not meeting anywhere near the projections that the state said. But the state was up around 60 million bucks projecting, or maybe around $6 million. So we don't know the impact of retail, how much will be sold from this one facility.
Was this the only one that we can direct in this way, I believe? The,
It has to be a steady stream of taxation.
yeah.
Yeah,
And the other one's a more host agreement. So
Right.
you really wouldn't be able to direct them, I don't believe, in this fashion.
that is
So
correct.
that's why
Yeah.
I really think that we need to do.
Yeah, and I'll also remind the board that we do have a piece of land, that, if voted at town meeting, that will hopefully be put out to bid and hopefully, moves forward to be sold. And
There's a lot of things in
and
the
that
works.
that goes to free cash as well, right? If sold, if I'm.
Yeah, once the tax collectors paid
Yeah. Yeah, that's
$83,000.
So, my concern about free cash, I think I'm okay. So I guess, from my standpoint, is there one fund here, Mike, that is, say, more underfunded, per what the DOR suggests? I know there was,
OPEB, yeah.
OPEB is by far, I mean, is that,
Yeah,
but I mean, is that also, though, the fund that, like to Gary's point, we're almost paying ourselves, right? In the sense that if we need it, we can pull in. But so I would rather overfund the other two if it were up to me.
Well,
but-
OPEB can only be used for OPEB-related
Yeah.
expenses.
Right.
That's the most restricted fund.
Yeah, I mean, I would even go maybe OPEB 30% and then maybe put 35% in the other two. That's my thought.
No, I mean, I don't have an issue of taking the local excise tax and putting it into our own, quote, savings account.
Yeah.
No, I like that one, because the other two, that keeps it, what you're saying, that keeps it at the minimum of 25 that you have to do, or did you say 30?
Well, I said 30, but I could even do 25 with OPEB and split.
Well, like Mike said, though, they're hitting us just as much for that as the stabilization, so, but you said it adds up, you said 30.
35, 30, 35, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so 30, 35, and 35.
I think that's fine. Do you want to vote on, can we
So-
vote
so
on
you're
that
looking
or individually, you think?
Are you, well, I
No, do them one at a
OPEB
time.
30,
Okay.
and then the other two
OPEB
35.
30 and the other's 35.
Yep.
Now, Mike,
Hi, Chief.
does that have any effect on on the proposed budget?
No, none whatsoever.
All right.
All right, so do we have to go one at a time here, Mike? Oh, I'm
Yes.
So
sorry.
you have to
Yes.
draw the first one, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody seconded.
Or just put, no, Kip did, but we didn't really have a number in there, so, we can,
So we'll withdraw the first motion.
Withdraw the first
And
motion,
just
yeah.
start over again.
or you just, whatever we do, we add to it and say we're gonna put the 35 in it.
Yeah, well, or we can just
we go with that one?
reword it.
Yep.
All right, who wants to make the motion on this?
So I move that we support the tax stabilization fund to see if the town will vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to dedicate without further appropriation a percentage of 35% of the adult use cannabis excise tax to the tax stabilization fund for a minimum of 3 years.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous.
Okay. Article 4, I move to support, to see if the town will vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to dedicate without further appropriation a percentage of 30% of the adult use cannabis excise tax to the OPED trust fund for a minimum of 3 years.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Article 5, Capital Stabilization Fund. I move to support, to see if the town will vote pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to dedicate without further appropriation a percentage of 35% of the adult use cannabis excise tax to the Capital Stabilization Fund for a minimum of 3 years.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on that? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. Finally, we're putting something in some savings.
Good night, Gary, right? Good night.
It is.
Gary won't be able to sleep tonight.
Can I read them? Hi, Chief.
Chief, what's up? All right. That's it for that, right, Mike? So now we get
Yes.
the STMs?
The ATM.
ATMs, I'm sorry. We just did STMs, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So, do you vote to support the operating budget?
Article 2.
Yeah, Article 2, ATM 1902.
Question, Mike. Do we need to vote on question 1?
Question 1.
No.
Because we already did that?
No, because
I think that's really the
it's
moderator.
not, yeah, it's not a financial,
Okay.
not that you only vote on financials, but this is just a, it's an automatic article, and I don't believe the boards, either FinCom or the Selectmen, ever vote on it.
Oh, well, at our meeting, we voted 3-2. That's how it's on the warrant
To hear,
for question 1.
really?
Yeah.
Do you mean question 1 up at the top on the...
That's not Article 1, but question 1.
Oh, well, you don't vote for that, that's a ballot question.
Okay.
That's just the
All
ballot
right.
question. That's what you were confused.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
talking about Article 1.
I thought you were talking about Article 1,
Mike's
too.
going, what's that got to do with town officers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we need to do Article 2
two, yeah.
for the general operating budget reserve fund, annual town meeting, Article 2, 19-02. I move to support, to see if the town will raise and appreciate or
I don't think you gotta read
Do I
it.
have to read it?
No, you
Oh,
just
then I just move to approve Article 2, ATM 19-02,
support the operating budget. Yeah.
General Operating Budget Reserve Fund.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion on that? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
No. Oh, I gotta change that. Okay, on Article 3, now I have a question on this, because this puts a dollar amount in there.
Well, we haven't determined a dollar amount yet, and
But
this is like Plan B. If if the special town meeting articles don't pass for some reason, and you want to, the only option here would be to take money out of the free cash and put it in the stabilization fund.
But if I can speak,
Sure, Doug, you okay?
Oh, I understand what Mike's saying.
Geiger.
I mean, we still have a policy of, maybe we want to, in the upcoming year, look at that policy now that we're funding these under a better method. But as a Board of Selectmen, we have a policy to put a certain percentage of free cash into these.
Yeah, but we've also changed, the policy is to keep a minimum of 300,000 in the free cash.
Well, does our policy also, I mean, I guess what you're saying is that this is better. Typically, this is something that we do more at a fall town meeting anyways, once the free cash has been certified in that, if I'm correct.
It can be,
I mean, I
as
think we've
long
done it
as,
both ways.
as long as we didn't have a fall town meeting last
Yeah.
year. As long as we have a fall town meeting, yeah, and then you get a new shot of
Free cash.
free cash
Well, it
from,
gets certified,
Yeah.
basically. So how much are we, again, are you expecting in free cash with it?
well, for next year, I don't have an estimate on that. Typically, an additional, I'd say conservatively 200, 300,000.
In a way, you're saying, if I'm hearing this right, you're saying we should really kind of pass over these, but yet we should have a plan in place in case what we just did prior doesn't get approved.
Doesn't pass.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, so can we, for tonight, just pass over that and hope to, these three, and hope to revisit them at, I mean, we'll leave them on the warrant.
Yeah, without and the dollar amount can be adjusted in the motion,
Yeah, and we can make a,
or it could be passed over.
we could, I mean, we could just pass over them for the message of support at this time. And then if, typically we have the meeting before the town meeting, we'll have the figures there, and if it looks like we want to make a move, we could then say that the selectmen just voted earlier tonight to support or not to support.
Yeah,
That's
you
what
can
I'm
do
saying.
that. Mhm.
Well, what would the difference be if we just voted them now? I mean, if we just voted them now, all we have to do is pass over them.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it, I believe. Just vote to support and then pass over, or change the amount on the floor.
Okay.
But we can't do both though, right?
No, you can't.
All right, so as long as we can't do both, I don't see, why
Well,
we just don't do it.
you could, but you don't want to.
No, I know that, well, that's the thing,
I would.
Don't be greedy, Gary.
We'd all be tying knots in our shoelaces.
well, and that's why I say, I mean, as long as, we, it's one or the other, then we can just vote it tonight and be done with it. So.
Can you vote to support it?
I was still
It doesn't pass.
trying to understand the process. So if the first three don't pass, then we have these as a backup.
Yeah.
And we have to have the dollar amounts in there right now?
No, the dollar amounts actually go in the motion.
Yeah.
They don't go in the warrant, on the warrant. They don't have to.
So when is that determined?
That would be,
Meeting before the town meeting. I mean, we have generally had a dollar figure on the warrant, but it doesn't need to be there. The dollar amounts are in the motions, which we print
Yeah.
beforehand anyway.
So if it's the meeting before, I'm sorry, one second.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be here for that?
Nope.
No. So how are we gonna determine that?
Well, I won't be here, but I won't be incommunicado.
Okay. Well, just keep that in mind, for the board. That I kept, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, does it make sense for now then just to leave them on here and then say leave them at $1? So that everyone knows, obviously we need to update or revise the numbers, but at least there's a dollar figure in there as a placeholder.
I wouldn't put a number at all in.
But you can,
That's what I'm gonna say. What if we just cross off the number?
You're just warning the electorate that you're going to vote and raise or transfer from available funds a certain amount of money, uncertain amount of money.
Yeah, and that was just, like in parentheses, that was just
Yeah.
our,
So
Mike
when
and
we-
me putting something in there, just,
If we didn't have a
Give you
figure there, would it make it
Gotcha.
easier to
Okay.
vote on?
Yeah.
We're basically voting, approving the philosophy.
Yeah.
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 So
So it doesn't sound like it matters.
could we make it that when it's printed, that it doesn't say that doesn't have to be changed on the floor? We'll just put,
right, that dollar amount won't be there, that says 100,000 from free cash.
so it'll say amount in the motion.
It'll
Yes.
just be whatever yeah, you guys have the motion, which the motion isn't,
Yeah.
public doesn't have, that just goes out to because those
Well,
are
it's-
decided at the last minute.
So, yeah.
The board
I'm
members have.
fine that way, so we're taking out that.
All right. Why don't you take it from there then?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out how I want to say it. Article 3 stabilization fund.
Motion to approve.
Support
Motion to
Article
approve.
3, stabilization fund, ETM 1909.
Right.
That's it.
See if from the Article 3 ATM 1903, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a transfer from available
No, you don't have to
funds.
read it all.
Money to be added to the stabilization fund.
Okay, good.
Second.
Just finish up, yep. Okay, a motion and a second, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
So for the, just to say, move to approve Article
So-
4, Capital Fund ATM 1904. And you don't have to
Okay.
read the rest.
All right, so moved.
Yeah.
Second.
Giddy up. All right, motion and a second, further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Move to approve other post-employment benefits trust fund, ATM 19-05.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, further discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Move to support Article 6, ATM 19-06, Water Department operating budget.
Second.
Hey, motion and a second. Do we generally see this operating budget?
Yeah, I just got it today, actually.
Yeah.
All right.
The FinCom will see it Wednesday.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain on that. Go ahead, Doug.
Article 7, Fire Department ambulance operating budget, ATM 19-07. I move to support that.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Further discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Article 8, I move to support local access programming, ATM 19-08.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in, excuse me, further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. have a consent calendar. I guess we gotta approve each one of these.
No, you don't.
No?
That's why it's a consent.
So we just skip over that?
No, you just make a motion to
Okay, so
approve the
I
consent calendar.
Make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on that. Going down, just want to note Article 13, National Ave is on here.
That's not the consent.
No, that's not in the
Oh, that's
consent.
not- I'm sorry.
No. It's only Articles
Yeah, it's
9,
right.
10.
Oh, I'm sorry, up
Sorry.
there. My bad. Okay, so strike that. My bad. Okay. All right, any further discussion on the consent calendar then? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Article 12. Move to support Article 12, supplement prior borrowing votes to permit the application of sale premium to pay project cost. ATM 19-12. Vote to support each prior vote of the town.
That's the
What is
National
this?
Ave
It's
one.
borrowing money.
Yeah, Mike, what is this?
No,
Oh,
that's
that's
for bonding purposes. And in particular, the water bond from the previous year, they received the premium and they're not authorized to spend the premium until we pass that.
Okay.
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 All right, second.
All right, motion and a second. Further discussion from the board? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 13, National Ave, ATM 1914. Mr. Chair, I move to support this article.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain on that one.
Okay. Article 14, Light Department, Water Department merger. Mr. Chair, I move to support Article 14 as it's presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion on this?
Are we ready?
Yep.
Are we ready?
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if we're all ready for it. I mean, I haven't been to any of their meetings or anything. I know they've been here many times, but... Okay.
I think they've indicated that they're ready.
Any further discussion on the board? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, Mike, do we just vote each CPC or the?
You can do them all at once, or if there's one you don't like, pull it out like they do on town meeting floor. I don't know.
That makes sense.
So how are we going to do it? Do we want to do them individually?
Nah, just do it collectively and then,
You can do it, if somebody wants to have a vote individually, then just say which one it is. A, B, C, D, F, G.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move to approve Article 15 in its entirety as presented, which is Community Preservation Committee, ATM 19-16.
okay, we have a motion. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion on that?
Hold on just a
Yep,
second.
yeah, we'll definitely give that one a few minutes.
Just want to make sure I understand.
I'll just say, yeah, I wasn't in favor of them all, as presented here as your representative there, but just to simplify things, I think since the committee did vote on them and presented them here, I will vote as a member of the Board of Selectmen in favor of them all. If that makes any sense to anybody, but
Yeah, well, I think CPC does a pretty good job well, I shouldn't say pretty good, they do a good job at that, in selecting projects, given the dwindling, matching support.
I guess it's sort of like sometimes here where I may not always vote to support everything as a member of the Board of Selectmen, but if my signature is, the board's voted to move it through and my signature is needed to do it, I'll do it, so.
All right, so we have a motion, and we do have a second. Do we have any further discussion on this?
One quick question, if I can.
Yes, sir.
On I, for the community gardens. Just curious if we know how many residents that serves, for example. How many people are using that?
Well, they get filled
Okay,
up
so
every year.
I'm seeing
Yeah, it's not community gardens.
yeah, I'm not seeing that as community,
Oh, really? Mine is.
Oh, really?
Recreation, oh, wait a minute. I is community
Yeah,
preservation.
rehabilitation of community gardens and for a trailhead there.
Parking area and the trail.
okay, it doesn't, yeah, that's what it is, it doesn't read, so,
Okay.
what's your basic,
No, I was just
How many people?
Just curious how, but I think Doug already answered my
Yeah,
question.
it gets
Seems like it's
filled
pretty.
up.
Yeah.
It's usually the same people every year. You get a fight to get a spot up there.
but there's a lot more there also. They're looking to open up some parking there, but they're also open to connect a trailhead from that parking area down into the Lifkin Brook Conservation, which is down the street a little further by the VFW. And then they also hope to pass, if you're going towards Boxford, past the VFW, also make a trailhead going in there to Lifkin Brooks. So this was presented by Open Space, I believe, and they're finally looking to get some of the trails in on a lot of this conservation land that we've got, and we really haven't got much of a trail system in town other than perhaps the Camp Dennison area. So,
Yeah, that's all I had.
Any further discussion on the board? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
all right.
Page 9, Article 16.
Yep. Article 16 is the Chaplain Hills Road street acceptance. So I move to support this article as presented. It's ATM 19-17.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion on this? Okay, if not, all those in favor?
All
Aye.
right.
Aye.
Article 17. Acceptance of Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Section 17C, reducing speed limit to 25 miles per hour in thickly settled or business district. It's ATM 19-21.
It's already recommended by the selectmen, but I don't know.
So we have a motion
Wait,
that's already recommended by the selectmen.
when did we do that?
I think that just meant,
We never
well,
voted on
You
that.
recommended to move
we
it,
recommended it last fall, actually.
yeah.
That was different too. That was.
Yeah.
But can we get a second so we can discuss it?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you.
If we remember right,
Yep.
the folks from Bailey Lane, Taylor, and Lakeshore had come before us and were concerned about the speed of traffic and amount of traffic coming through their neighborhoods.
That's right.
And we felt their pain and did vote to allow them to have a lower speed limit there. And then we were told that we took an improper vote and that it had to be approved at town meeting.
Town meeting. Yep.
Right, and if I may,
Absolutely.
that conversation was specific to that neighborhood as well. The way this is written, this is town-wide.
Yeah, it was
This is a big
specific.
difference.
No, there was. It was
Yeah.
a specific conversation to that. We had Chief Cummore here and he gave us some education into, you know, what we could do as a board. You know, Mike had given us some input as well, but then, you know, we really kind of talked about, well, you know, instead of having just these, you know, 3 streets, okay, that, you know, are going to be hopefully 25 miles an hour, why don't we take similar streets, okay, and just make it a town-wide, you know, effort, you know, which is, you know, similar streets will have similar problems and issues, and that is, you know, kids running around while, you know, cars are zipping, you know, back and forth. So the thought process was to, you know, do everything in these similar kinds of thickly settled areas.
And we don't have any authority over the state-maintained roads like 97, 133. You know, and I don't see any of the main roads being under that particular guideline. All it does is it would just say Georgetown is a 25-mile-an-hour community, and it's except where posted, but in the article it says, which allows, keyword, the Board of Selectmen to establish a speed limit of 25 miles per hour in any thickly settled or business district in the town. So it doesn't mean because and it's one of these laws that you have to opt into. The state passes it, but then they say, well, if you want to use it, you have to opt into it. That's why we took an improper vote, apparently. So it doesn't mean we have to change any, you know, but we could. It gives us the ability to do so.
Just as
That's my understanding.
Just as a point of order, if I could ask that we remove up the top where it says recommended by selectmen. I mean, I think the intent was to put it here for the people, but now we're making another move, and I think it's just going to be confusing.
Sure, we can eliminate that.
Yeah.
That's not a problem because we're voting it anyway. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine. Any further discussion from board members? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
What did we get?
2-2.
2-2?
2-2, yep.
Moving on. Article 18, amendment of Article I, general provisions. Section 165-7, definitions and word usage, which is recommended by the Planning Board, ATM 1922. Move to support this article.
Second.
Presented.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Does the board need any further information on this?
Well, they're not even having their public hearing, I think, until Wednesday night on this. So I was hoping to make some of that. So I mean, where they haven't had a public hearing yet, I would abstain from this one.
Any further discussion?
Just a quick, so
Yeah.
could we vote the day of town meeting? So you could get the additional information, we still
Yeah.
could, okay.
That you kind of.
Just it wouldn't be in
It
It wouldn't be in the printed,
it wouldn't be in the printed book.
Right.
That's why I usually put the, you know, the Board of Selectmen recommend this article by a 3-2 vote or whatever it
Yeah, okay.
is. So that would not be there. That would
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah, because
What
you know, I'd be reluctant to vote for it, not
It's
knowing
just-
what the definitions are going to be changed
They
to.
don't usually
Agreed.
What do we do, just
So, yeah,
abstain from this?
yeah, I was gonna say,
can't, they don't always.
Mike, can we vote and just abstain from this?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you don't, Janet's right, the board doesn't always vote their preference on planning board articles.
You can't, but like FinCom doesn't usually because they're not money articles, so they don't. The
So
board
we'll-
can, but you don't.
So we'll just, we have a motion.
I was gonna say, we do have a motion a second, so we're gonna put it to a vote, and then, you know, you can vote, you know, where you
Oh, we
want
can-
to. So, all those in favor? Opposed?
I abstain.
Yep, we're all
I abstain.
abstaining. So all abstentions. Okay.
Let me see, Article 19, amendments to zoning bylaw, Article 18, I wish they wouldn't use that word, marijuana business, Section 165-161H and I, ATM 19-23. I move to accept this as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. I think this is what we spoke about at our last meeting, in terms of lines and
Right,
things
and
like
again,
that.
this
so.
is another planning board.
And again, I think Wednesday night is their hearing on it. So I'm gonna abstain on this one also.
I think we can.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Who's abstaining? We're all abstaining. Okay. Let's not waste any time talking about it. Let's just move on.
Okay, Article 20. Isn't that?
It's gonna- I think it
question
has to be
one?
both, I think.
It-
need to
They're
be-
both.
Oh, okay.
It's a town meeting vote and a ballot vote.
If the town
Oh,
meeting
okay,
votes
okay.
it down, does that make the ballot
Okay, so the one.
null and void, like overrides?
Well, it doesn't make it null and void. You could always bring it up at a different meeting.
No,
If it doesn't get passed on the ballot, then it's dead.
yeah,
But if it,
doesn't get passed here, we can bring it back again if we so choose.
yes.
But-
If it
but
passes, it's just like a override. If it passes on the ballot, but doesn't pass at the meeting, you can bring it up at the next meeting.
No, I wasn't aware of that with overrides.
Yeah.
So, I suppose we have
Limitation
we'll have a
of
motion
adult
to support Article 20, limitation on number of adult use marijuana retailers, ATM 19-24.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion? Okay, if not, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
Nay.
So 2 and 2.
So that has to go on the ballot too.
that was question one.
It is on the ballot.
I have it on
That's, yeah, question one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Article 21,
I was
amendment
that
to
was-
Chapter 29, Building Construction Stretch Energy Code. Another one of these planning board. So I move to support Article 21 as presented.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion?
Well, did we vote at our last meeting to move this forward? I think we took no position on this at our last meeting. Because it ended up when John Cashel was here, he said, this is ours.
Yep.
Planning board is recommending it, but it's up to us to put it on here. And if we do that, do we need any type of a public hearing or anything?
No.
Okay, no public hearing is needed.
They hold the public hearing.
Hmm?
They hold the public hearing.
But it's up to us to put it on. I don't know that they, I think they discussed this. I mean, I'm all in favor, since the planning board is recommending it, I'm in favor of putting it on the warrant. At this time, I'm going to abstain because I'm not sure where I am on this. Well,
All right, so we have the motion and a second. So let's put it to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Abstain. Okay, we're going to abstain.
so we are leaving it on the warrant, I guess, is more my question.
Yeah, right, we'll leave it on the warrant, but we all abstain.
Okay.
I think was that it, Mike?
Yes.
I believe that was it.
Yep, all right, fantastic. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate you going through. All right, so going down the agenda, we have the Selectmen's report that we're currently in talks with. So I don't think we really need to get into that, I don't think.
Okay. So we're just,
Yep, so we'll pass that one over. Christmas tree lighting again. Yeah. We're gonna pass that over yet again.
Yeah. Show up around
Well, I was gonna say
December 1st.
until we get some time. So lastly, appointment of acting town administrator. So for those out in our audience and at home, unfortunately, our town administrator has to take a leave. So we will need someone in his absence. Mike Farrell will be out, for the month. He does have a medical procedure coming up, so we do need an acting town administrator. So Mike, if you could, kind of bring us up to speed on who that person will be, or proposed to be.
I would recommend that Chief Don Cudmore be appointed acting town administrator. I've spoken with Don, and he's willing to do it, and he wanted to make sure the board realized he does not want any additional compensation to do it. I'm going to be able, after the first 2 weeks, to communicate via phone and email, but it would be good to have somebody here to make some calls that nobody else is really qualified to do.
Yep. Okay.
And in all my years of municipal management, unless some town actually had an assistant town administrator, generally the most experienced administrator is the police chief. So they can step into the job and take actions when necessary, or if a signature is necessary, which isn't very often because the board signs almost everything. There's very little that I'm even legally allowed to sign and bind the town. Okay. So, and as I said, Don has accepted to do it.
Okay. Any discussion on the board?
Yeah. Are we okay on the procurement procedure and that? I mean, do you see anything upcoming there or anything, or it's the end of the year?
No. Most of that gets done July, because the money isn't there until July 1.
Okay, yeah.
So, no, there won't be any procurement issues.
And what about like job posting?
Janet handles those.
Okay. Because I know I think Park and Rec might be needing to post a position.
Mm-hmm.
And Jenny, you don't have any vacation time, do you?
I have vacation time, but I
No, but I mean,
don't take it.
all Mike
I
is
just
gone.
went.
All right. Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
Janet, you will be in the office all of April
I
to
will.
assist. Thank you very much. Just wanted to-
And on legal, that would go through Donnie probably sort of as it has.
Yeah, he
that is what
would
you're saying?
handle the legal issues that would come up. Mm-hmm. He's very familiar with our legal counsels, our various counsels.
Yeah, okay.
Whether it be labor or general.
Are we sort of putting negotiations in that or not?
No, they'll continue without me.
Okay.
We only have one. We were scheduled for one today, but neither council could make it.
Okay.
So it got canceled, and we only have one on the books for the 18th of April right now, at which time they'll, make new dates. So,
Okay. Anything else? I thought you want to make a
Okay, well, I'll just wait till we have a motion. So I'll present the motion to approve the appointment of Chief Donald Cudmore as acting town administrator from April 3rd, 2019, to the return of town administrator Michael Farrell
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion.
Yeah, I have no doubt that Chief Cudmore will do a fine job because he's very detailed, organized, and has good thought processes. Personally, I would have rather known about this a lot earlier than we did, so that we would have at least had the opportunity to explore an interim town administrator. I don't know if because we don't know, I hope Mike is back in 4 weeks. We don't know if he'll be back in that or not, but we certainly do hope that he recovers quickly and is back in his seat. But I just think that we should have had more time to look at our various options.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Chief Donald Cudmore, congratulations.
He said,
You'd have more of a workload for April.
he said I'm going to owe him 2 Guinness.
You know he's going to show up on April 1st and say April Fools. I'm not town administrator.
Mike, for certain, you know I'm a praying man, so for certain we'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers for speedy recovery, and the doctors will do a bang-up job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Certainly. Hope you don't get a doctor like that commercial where he comes in, he goes, "You nervous?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Just got recertified.
Almost.
No, I have a really good doctor.
What hospital are you in?
Leahy.
Leahy Burlington?
Yes. About 5 days.
For 5 days? Mm-hmm. They already have the...
Yep.
All right. All right, anybody else have anything else that they want to add? I think I'm missing anything.
We didn't have any minutes to
Are
approve.
we doing?
Oh, we're doing okay.
No, I mean, we if we're gonna stay, we need a motion. If we're not, we...
Yeah, oh, actually, Mike, with Chief Mitchell here, I mean, what are we doing?
No, I unfortunately, I didn't get to text him quick enough not to come over, but he knows we're not having the meeting.
All right.
He just didn't want to be rude and leave.
Oh, it's good that they...
Hey, it's good to see you, though, Chief. Good to see you, too.
So, a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. All right. Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.